I had a question about 5G. Is anybody deploying 5G right now out there in these neighborhoods, or are these 4G? It's in several experimental cities. Anybody on the panel there know whether these are 4G or 5G?
It's 4G presently.
Right. So people aren't going to get a 5G. I mean, you don't need towers every 500 feet if you're doing 4G. The 5G seems to be the one that
Your
requires.
questions might be better answered by some of the industry representatives who are coming up soon.
I assume we've got people who understand it enough since they're involved in it. I mean, I can ask the industry representatives if you want.
I guess from the audience.
Fine. We can't talk to the. My concern is that I think these are 4G.
They are 4G.
And they are. That's what I thought. And so if people are being told they're getting 5G towers, they're actually not getting 5G towers yet. So you're not going to get we're not going to get a 5G solution until they actually deploy them. And the parts of the county that have bad service could have been fixed with the other towers a long time ago. And I think the gentleman's point about his neighborhood is if Verizon, whoever your provider is over there, had chosen to properly locate towers, you wouldn't be in this mess today. I mean, there are dead spots, because I've been through this, where people identify dead spots, and the cell phone companies, after sometimes a very long time, finally get around to putting a tower in a dead spot. So telling people, or if people have been given the impression that you need towers every 500 feet to fix the dead spots, as long as it's 4G, that's not even factually true. I'll just stop there.
All right.
I mean, we asked for improvements, and a number of us, I thought, made it pretty clear that we expected to see new language and new processes as part of this process. So here we are with the ZTA with nothing to speak to what's going to be done. And I mean, if any of the advocates up there, have you been part of any meetings where they discussed what new regulatory processes there might be? Plans in the ether. Did you see the plans in the ether?
No.
Aha. You can't have a process that doesn't involve the community when the biggest issue was the utter lack of involvement on the part of the community in the previous processes. Have any of the polls that were documented to be in violation that the residents brought us with nice pictures saying these polls weren't supposed to, any of them been removed? No. So we can't even remove the polls that we know were put in places where they shouldn't be. I don't need new regulations. The old regulations said the polls shouldn't be there. So I don't understand the unwillingness to enforce the removal of things that have been placed where they shouldn't be placed. I'm not comfortable going forward with this part if we can't get the regulatory environment right. So I wanted to ask Mr. Donahue a question. It's been asserted that Montgomery County has to do this, otherwise we'll be preempted federally. You guys are active nationwide and you have resistance nationwide. So if Montgomery County were to do this, are you going to drop any effort to preempt local governments at the federal level that you're already engaged in, or at the state level?
I'm not
Do we
involved.
matter that much?
I'm not involved in lobbying with the FCC. I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
Council President mentioned a vote pending for tomorrow. I'm not involved in those proceedings.
So you can't opine as whether or not Montgomery County is the crux of whether or not you decide nationally to go forward with preemption legislation. You're waiting on us?
Because I pay attention to what's going on in Annapolis and Richmond and at the FCC, it's a very real possibility that the state or the Fed is going to continue to constrain local authority.
Regardless of what we do? Yeah. Just say that. Yes? Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. So regardless of what we do, whether we say we don't want to do it or we...
We believe that the text amendment that you have before you strikes a very excellent balance We think it really does the job of protecting where needed and allowing for us to file, go through Tower Committee, go through hearing as necessary. We think the text amendment really does an excellent job of striking that balance.
I understand you feel, I'm just trying to get to the point, which I think is important, which is it's really not going to stop the efforts to preempt local governments because there are too many local governments that are already doing this.
Okay.
So and my other question is, how many are you going to deploy? Because if the issue really is signal density and the inability to communicate, I know Donna's neighborhood, it's not particularly dense. It doesn't strike me as, doesn't have tons of tall apartments and many, many cell phone users. Right. So I guess my question is, if this is the kind of neighborhood that's going to get the towers, isn't this just going to be ubiquitous in the county?
So the towers that are poles that are less than 22 feet will be going through a hearing examiner and hearings. There's been some conversation about batching, but in any event, there'll be a public hearing. There's an opportunity to testify and oppose or support. So for those towers and those poles that are in the 22 and less height, they go through the process essentially as it is today.
And if they don't get built, then these neighborhoods will not have adequate cell service.
Well, it's going to be a real challenge. When we looked at the maps early on, we got the question about, well, why all the small cells in this particular area? Well, when you looked at, I've forgotten, Seneca, I guess it was, there was a large self-support tower in the other portion of the area where providing pretty good coverage. The gentleman mentioned 197 foot, that provides a large footprint. Where those towers don't exist, and where there's no water tank, where there's no PGE or PEPCO transmission towers, the small cells are the solution.
But if you had a 190-foot tower, could you do your 5G service off a 190-foot tower?
So we're really doing both. What we're really trying to do is use the macro sites, but use the small cells to help offload the capacity constraints on the network.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to, it wasn't a direct response to me, but I want to just state my view, which is sort of parallel thought here, but different, which is that I think trying to resist doing anything is effectively capitulating to the industry. That's how I see it. And pretending that we can hold this off forever, which, by the way, we wouldn't want to do because we actually want to continue to use our phones the way that we want to use them. But pretending that we could effectively is capitulating to the industry and allowing them to justify preempting us. So that's my view. It's contrary to the previous view expressed. But